So today we're moving on into 11th step. We sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will and the power to carry that out. Today, most of the discussion that we're going to have is about two things. One, prayer. Two, meditation. But before we get into those, the first thing we want to talk about is religion, spirituality. Hold on, spirituality. And before we talk about those, I want to talk about a higher power / God. So just to kind of get started, I'm going to give a little brief summary on what this is, how it works into the steps, and how it works into recovery overall. Then I'm going to kind of start asking you guys questions that may pertain to this. But we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact. Just to let you know, we may already have conscious contact. It may be great conscious contact. It's just not perfect. This is about improving that conscious contact that we have. And we're doing that through prayer and meditation. Sometimes, people pray at night. People pray during the day, in the morning. People have all sorts of prayers. There's the Mother Mary prayer, Hail Mary, whatever it is. There's the Serenity prayer, third step prayer, foxhole prayers. There's all types of prayers that are out there. And we're going to try to figure out what are some commonalities amongst these prayers. Are there long prayers? Are they short prayers? Am I praying out loud? Am I praying in my head? Am I praying alone? Am I praying with other people? And what is meditation, right? Is meditation really simply is thinking deeply? Am I doing that with the aid of chanting? Am I going, Om? Am I watching YouTube videos to meditate? Have I never meditated before? Is it difficult? Am I able to do it? And I'm doing this to improve my conscious contact with a higher power. What is a higher power? Does that imply I've already been having conscious contact with my higher power? Where has this conscious contact been? Because no one's been showing me it. Where's my big sign that says this is conscious contact so that I can actually become aware of it? Now, and we're using prayer, that first thing that we were talking about, to improve this conscious contact, praying only for knowledge of His will, whatever that means, and the power to carry that out. So I'm praying for knowledge and power. Knowledge, facts, data, information, patterns, predicting, etc. And power, strength, ability, influence, such and such, right? What does this have to do? Now, at the point that you're at the 11th step, most of the time, you're pretty much stable in recovery. Like I always say in the restoration process, this is where you're restored, okay? And maybe you, maybe at this point, like in comparison to like the car restoration, the car's restored. Our 10th step showed us that we're just continuing to change the oil, fill it with gas, et cetera, et cetera. At this point, this is where we say to ourselves, well, what's the next thing? Is there more I can do to the car? Are there better ways to improve it? Is there another car that I'm going to restore? Is there something else that needs to be done that I should be doing? And this is where we figure out, well, what is that knowledge? We gain that knowledge, acquire that knowledge, and actually carry it out. Now, this not only happens for good things, like, hey, what's the next move for me to be better? How can I improve? But this also happens with bad things, right? So, for instance, maybe addiction played, maybe in our active addiction, this had played a role. I mean, you ever been, in active addiction and do that foxhole prayer where you're like, God, I'll do anything. Please, please. I just have to be sober. I don't know what I just got to do. Like, please get me out of this. I can't go to jail this time. Please, I will never use again if you get me out of this. That's a foxhole prayer. That's like our last bit to maybe God can get me out of this situation because I am completely powerless. And you know what's interesting is if there ever was a time where you had said, God, please, I just want to be sober one day. You're sober today. He actually answered that prayer Wow, that's crazy. Just acknowledge that for a second. Isn't that crazy? Wow, that is pretty crazy. But anyways, moving on. When it comes to prayer and meditation, people often think that this people often may think that this is just a religious thing. This is just a spiritual thing with crystals and rocks and priests and rabbis and Bibles and this and that. But perhaps it's not. Perhaps there's a different way of looking at this. And this step also implies that I've had this contact, that I've had this contact, that I've been having this contact. And this is about improving that contact with this higher power. Well, where has this contact been? Where is this unconscious contact? Where is this conscious contact? And how come, like I said, there is no sign making me aware that I'm having this conscious contact? I'm going to bear a question to you guys for a second. That is just your personal experience, and I would love to know and learn more about it. But how has your relationship with your idea of a higher power evolved over the period of your life? So, how has your relationship with God evolved from like when you were a kid to a teenager to adult to now to using? Like, how has that relationship evolved over a period of time, over your entire life?
I would say that my parents, when I was a little kid, tried to take me to, they didn't try, they did. They took me to church, two different kinds of church, like non-denominational Christian and then Catholic church. It was always just like a little bit of a battle between the two of them. It's like which church we were going to go to. And then there was like this weird Ponzi scheme that happened at the non-denominational Christian church. And then I was a little bit older, and Catholic church was too boring, so I didn't go. They really forced me to go, and then they kind of stopped going too. Then I got in this really bad accident when I was like 17, and then I didn't, for a while I was like, there's no God. I was like, I'm either agnostic, but like kind of undulating between like agnostic and atheist, like back and forth. Then I was a drug addict, and I was pretty sure there was no God. With the occasional foxhole prayer, like you kind of talked about at the head of this, like, if I got, low enough to just be like, if I could just one day, not be a drug addict, piece of shit, alcoholic, whatever, that'd be real cool, God, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then through this process, like 6 years ago, kind of finding spirituality again, through just taking suggestions and being willing to do whatever it took, not really believing and even kind of feeling like a little bit of an idiot for praying, early on, like kind of got over that, that kind of saw like when I had spirituality in my life that, not only did I feel better, but I was just better to everyone else. And then kind of just like falling in and out of that, just like not like made the decision and came to believe, but constantly forgot. You know what I mean? Constantly forgot. Just over the next several years, like, oh, that's right, I was supposed to be, turning my will over. I'm supposed to be having that God reliance, and then just constantly forgetting, and then having relapses and not having spirituality in my life at all, and then back to trying to find it again now today.
Wow. So, okay, there's this being, thank you for sharing, being introduced to it, then kind of getting away from it, trying to come back in, but through the time of wanting to rebuild that relationship, continuously kind of forgetting to keep it on the forefront. Anything? Anybody else? What's their experience with this? Their relationship with God?
in a relationship with God and her. Because I was grown up in the church. You know, most of my granddad was pastor, my mom was a minister. I was brought up in the church. I've always had a relationship with her. Sometimes I question God, and my mother passed away. God picked her up away. That was my husband, her brother. I started backsliding from, you know, the church and stuff when I became an age. Because I was like, I was going to church on Sunday and then Bible study Tuesday. And just always during church stuff, I was like tired of it. I kind of get backslid away from him. And then like now I'm trying to get back to church. I've been watching church online and stuff. And like I've been praying, I pray every night now. You know. So yeah.
Okay. So kind of so kind of like once you started getting wrapped up with the addiction, it kind of took you away from it a little bit, inhibited your ability to have that relationship.
Yeah, because I felt weird. Because I get high, I would go to church, and then after I would get out of church, I would go be high. I felt so weird by it. I feel like that was fucked up. Like, how am I praising God and thinking I'm hallelujah about? I'm going to smoke some crack, do some cocaine. Like, that's weird as fuck. You know,
right.
That's a spiritual experience, though, something, right? Right.
Yeah.
Church back. Yeah.
Anybody else? Thank you for sharing.
For me? Yeah, for me, back in 2021 and before, I been going through a bunch of shit, and so I was extremely nihilistic at the time. So nothing really mattered. I didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Once I went through my first detox and PHP, got out, kind of thought about it, but wasn't like too, like, I don't know, wasn't too convinced of the idea at that point. So went back to treatment after I had my quick little relapse, and then I started to go to church after that treatment. Stayed sober for like 8 months. Relapsed in about 8 months. Had a little bit of a struggle with my higher power, but I still like went to church and everything during that time up until earlier this year when I went back to PHP I was at. Started to reconsider it. Then went to the same PHP again, and then went to another treatment center, like detox, got out, and then had an overdose the same day I had gotten out because the treatment center I left for like the first like week or less, they had a full staff. And after the second week I was there, like 4 or 5 people who worked there had either had either left or gotten fired. And so the whole attitude of the entire facility, all the clients were like, I'm just ready to go home, not learning this shit. There's not even enough people to staff this place, stuff like that. The only thing I've learned here is they have high turnover rate, stuff like that. So I was just ready to go home. So I was ready to go home. Went home, put all my stuff together, and new stuff living on my own too. And then borrowed one of my friend's cars and went to my drug dealer, picked up some fentanyl, went home, did it at like 9:30 at night, barely did it. I first took like a 1 centimeter wide line, and just did like a little clip on the end of the line. Went to my room, laid down, started texting one of the chicks I was talking to, and then from what I thought, I fell asleep, and then I didn't. I was
out until the next day at 10 p.m. So I was out for about 26, 27 hours over those in between my headboard and my bed and the wall. And since I had been out for so long, I didn't have enough oxygen in my head, and it caused a stroke. So they took me to the hospital. Woke up and they told me, well, they didn't tell me they had to write it down on paper because from the stroke I had lost my hearing temporarily, and so they wrote down that I had an overdose and that that Narcan be found in between my bed and this and that, and that my heart was only pumping at 20%, my organs were failing, and I had a stroke, all kinds of other shit. And so that was pretty scary. And then I had a chaplain pray over me because I couldn't hear anything at all when I woke up. And for like 3 days it was like that. And then a chaplain prayed over me. And then the next day I started to hear like noises and stuff. It's kind of like I was in a pool or like a body of water. I heard like glass being like tapped or like stuff like that from like the EKG. I could hear it. Voices I couldn't differentiate words or anything like that at that point. I can now. And so the fact that after that chaplain prayed for me, I started to have hearing, kind of brought back my relationship with my higher power. Then I went to go get, I was going to try Suboxone for my treatment after that. So I went to Brentwood Springs for detox and residential. They gave me Suboxone and I told them I was going to try and do Sublocade, which was like an extended release Suboxone. And they gave me the highest dose, a 300 milligram dose, which it just sits under your skin like a bubble type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then after like a week or two, my mental, like, mine was just not where it was supposed to be. I had like short-term, I didn't have any short-term memory or anything like that. Like, my mom would ask me if I had breakfast while I was in the hospital, and an hour after I'd eaten my breakfast, I wouldn't know what I had eaten. And I also was like falling asleep, standing up, falling asleep, sitting around anywhere at class or at house. Before I went to the hospital, we had an outing for bowling, and I could barely like stand, let alone like bowl or whatever. But I go up there the first time to like throw my ball, and somehow threw a strike, which I didn't even realize I had done until I didn't even realize we went bowling until I got back to the house after I got out of the hospital. And they told me, "Do you remember going bowling?" I said, "No, I didn't know we went bowling." And they're like, "Yeah, you were like super fucked up, like could barely like throw the ball, couldn't remember like when to throw the ball, stuff like that." I was like, Jesus Christ. And they're like, "Yeah, but one thing that I just don't understand is how the first ball you go up there to throw, you just immediately throw a strike." And I was like, I have no idea. Yeah.
So, sounds like you have had quite the relationship with your higher power.
Sorry, what was that?
I said it sounds like you've had quite the relationship with your higher power.
Yeah, especially this year, since all that was in this year alone.
So God was present. You believe God was present during all of that.
Yeah.
What is your part in generating that relationship?
Uh,
Like the condition that your relationship with God and where it is right now, what is your part in bringing the relationship? Like, who's responsible for the condition the relationship is in?
I would say I am, but I'm gonna say that chaplain, like, definitely like secured it in place. Like, as soon as he like prayed over me, and I woke up the next day, like hearing things again, that definitely like secured the deal
Mm,
and me getting back in touch with my higher power.
mm,
And then after they had to take the Sublocade out because it was a bad reaction to the medication because that was causing the memory loss, the lack of energy and everything. So they had to like cut my stomach open and like pull it out, which was kind of cool, honestly, because they didn't like put me under anesthesia or anything. They just like numbed the area with Lidocaine. So I just like sat up and like looked down my head and just see him like split my stomach open, going to pull it out, like using the forceps. They didn't break it apart, so they had like all these little tiny pieces out of it and everything. So
wow.
yeah, it was pretty cool. And then that same day, like after they had done that, maybe about an hour after, I started to like regain my power with my memory and everything. Like I start to remember things very vividly.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I started to regain my energy. I still had like a week or two that I was like still kind of groggy, maybe like I'd like doze off sometimes, like just if I was just sleeping there not doing anything, like I'd doze off or whatever. But after that, I was 1 week was in the hospital, and the other week that I was groggy and stuff was back here at the treatment center. And once my energy started to come back, it's come completely back at this point. So that's been another thing that's like a helpful factor in regaining contact with my higher power.
Mm. Wow. All right.
They were telling me at the hospital that you can't remove this Sublocade, this and that, and my mom was like, "Yeah, you can. Have you even read like the little pamphlet that comes with the medication?" They're like, "No, but like I've never even heard of this medication, and this and that." I'm like, okay, and they're like, but honestly, it'll probably be fine if you just leaves it in. It might just be an inocular brain injury from the stroke. And my mom was like, it's not an inocular brain injury. He had the stroke in October. It's now November, end of November. He has not had this problem up until they put the Sublocade.
Mm.
And they're like, okay, well, we don't even know how to take the Sublocade out. Mom was like, have you guys not looked up anything about this medication or anything? And they're like, well, this and that. And Mom was like, I will walk you through how to remove this medication. All you have to do is numb the area with lidocaine, take a scalpel, slice it open, pull it out, stitch it up, and that's it. And they were like, oh, okay. And so they did the surgery the next day and had no problem.
Wow. That is crazy, dude.
So the fact that everything went well, even though they didn't even know about the medication at all, I am very grateful for, and have no one else but God and obviously my mom for that situation going as well as it did.
Mm. Wow. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no problem.
And I want to kind of look at how we treat our relationship with a higher power just like any other relationship. You know what I'm saying? And consider the same way in our fourth step, we kind of look at how our choices, beliefs, and behaviors have resulted in an unhealthy or destructive relationship. I want to do that same thing, perhaps with our relationship with a higher power, and then try to understand the role of spirituality or religion in that journey of restoring that relationship. So let's kind of check this out. When you go here, you go to, now let's just, you can have a seat too. You don't have to stand there. So what we're doing now, we're looking at our choices, beliefs, and behaviors, and how they have resulted in are equal to an unhealthy or destructive relationship with God. All right. So now, let me ask you this. Is God responsible for my choices, beliefs, and behaviors? Is God responsible for the unhealthy, destructive relationship? Right? It's a loving, caring God. Now, my experience with God, I was raised Irish Catholic, brought up, and I went to CCD. I got First Holy Communion. I went through confirmation. I had it all. I did it all. You know what I mean? And I kind of felt like I was forced into this relationship with God. So at first, my relationship with God it didn't feel by choice. It didn't feel like something that I necessarily believed in because I didn't understand it, and my behaviors with God were not by my choice. Like my behavior to read the Bible and do all the activities and read literature on God was not my choice. It was brought upon me by my parents' choices, by the choices of my grandparents, perhaps, So here I am forced into this relationship with what? With what? There is no tangible God. You know what I'm saying? So here I am forced into a relationship with this thing that I have to believe and come to understand. And is it Jesus? Is it, Mother Mary? I remember going to Catholic church and there was like a giant, like at the front of the church is a giant picture of Jesus crucified, thin. Like, is that what I'm worshiping? I'm worshiping a crucified person. I'm not understanding this. And what does that make me believe my relationship with God is when they say, if you sin, if you curse your parents, you need to repent your sin by 10 Hail Marys, 4 Our Fathers, go to the priest. I never did any of that shit. I never did any of that. So what do I believe? I believe God doesn't want this relationship if I'm not putting my part in. I have this belief that God doesn't want anything. He's doing these things to me because I'm not having that relation, because I'm not reaching out to him. This is what I get as a result of it. So I don't reach out to God. I don't try to have that relationship with him because why? The shame, the guilt, the fear, the unfairness of it all, the resentment towards a higher power, which is not even true. It's not even the case, but I believe that to be the case. And even though that is the case, like I'm afraid to be around them because I'm ashamed, I still call them when I'm in a foxhole prayer type of situation. I still call upon God when I'm scared or I need help or I don't think there's a way out. So even though I'm afraid of them and I don't want the relationship and I'm afraid to make it happen, I still rely on that relationship in times of need. And it's weird because even though I'm like pushing away from like that shame and all of that is preventing me from making an amends to my higher power, from saying to my higher power, my bad, I'm sorry. That was my decision, my choice that may have caused this to happen. And that same type of fear of making that amends is the same type of fear in making the amends with our family, with our friends, right? The same way I treated my relationship with my higher power is the same way I treated my relationship with my parents, especially in active addiction. Shame, guilt, resentment, fear. But when I need money, who am I calling? When I get locked up, who am I calling? You know, it's the same type of relationship. I'm innocent. It's with my friends. It's with, anybody. And it's this selfish part of the relationship. And it's not just, I'm not only treating my relationship with people in my life like that, I'm treating my higher power like that. And it gets to a point where not even by my own doing, I get brought to church and I start learning about God, and not learning about God in a way that it's spiteful or something like that, just coming to understand that, and I'm grateful for religion existing as we'll call it basic unified form of a journey to God. Does that make sense? So to me, I see religion as an organization that has a pretty standard way of guiding people into a relationship with their higher power. And I had never seen spirituality as a part of that journey. Now, I never wanted to be religious. I was never one to say I am Catholic or Christian or whatever. I like being open to spirituality. Nobody knows the answers, so nobody can have one answer. When you look at all the religious texts, they all kind of share a similar story. So to me, I wanted to explore my spirituality, and a good basic foundation of me exploring that spirituality and restoring that relationship was going to church. And my relationship then was, well, how can I fix it? You know what I mean? I'm sorry, I fucked up, God. Now I recognize you were there the whole time. I had no idea that you were there the whole time. I thought I was alone. I thought you hated me. Now I know you love me. Now I know you were there the whole time looking out for me, trying to make these moves and make these things happen. I was the one who was taking my will back and going against that. It's like, so how can I improve this relationship? How can I, dude, how can you improve your relationship with your family? How about you call them, dude? How about you check in on them with no ulterior motives? We're not calling families saying, hey, how's everything going? Good, good. Hey, and then at the end of the conversation being like, hey, can you Western Union me like $50? It's like just going through with the conversation, seeing how they're doing. It's not like being like, oh, hey, God, what's up? Yeah, man, that's cool. Yeah, everything's going well here on earth, but if you could really help get me that job that I need, that'd be great. It's like, that's not how you restore or repair these relationships. There's a way to go about doing this. And part of that way and method of restoring this relationship is through prayer and meditation, right? They say prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening for the answer, or whatever the case may be. And on this journey, some of the data that we can look back on are times we did not pray or meditate, or it was missing in some form, or it wasn't the best it could have been. Now, to you guys, what is the difference between religion and spirituality? What is the difference between religion and spirituality? One's like over here, one's over there.
Religion
Religion, man.
And to me, it stigmatized a little bit because of past experiences. I think it's been corrupted a bit.
Okay.
Oh, whatever. That aside, I don't know, dude.
Just all right. So let's say anybody else have an answer to that? All right. So this is just my belief, right? I believe religion is spirituality for dummies. Okay. Religion is a cookie cutter designed way of reaching a spiritual state. You know what I'm saying? There's a literature to help you do that. There's a pastor or a priest or whatever to help you do that. You know, there's a method. There's 10 commandments. There's a way to live that is designed to optimize your moral performance and your, just being a good person. It's a place where you can find like-minded people who are also on that journey, right? Now, this is not the only way to build that relationship. I believe a spiritual journey, and religion can be a part of that spiritual journey, but a spiritual journey is a more difficult, not defined way. Now, what are some I mean, when I think of spirituality, I think of crystals, astrology, you know what I mean? I think of zodiac signs, Chinese New Year's and shit, but the more I explore my spirituality, the more I realize that, maybe that is in the sphere of spirituality, but there's a lot of other ways to explore spirituality. What are some ways that you guys have explored your spirituality? Religion, maybe one. Any other ways that you've?
Like, what's the difference? Like, we go to the Dharma meeting.
Yeah.
Dharma? She said. Say that again.
Dharma. Yeah.
Dharma. Okay, keep going. Sorry, I missed that. Okay.
And like, I guess it's
Yeah, it's Buddhist based. Yeah.
Buddhist based. The chanting gives me out of that. But like the meditation, like how they have it, presented, I do the things. So like that got me serious when I put a child right here. That's different.
I like the way you said that. I kind of banged it. Me too, yeah. I like that too. The recovery Dharma is nice. I mean, meditation is, probably the main way that I've explored spirituality. Prayer. And then, dude, those float sensory deprivation joints.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like those help a lot with just getting in that place of calm and like quieting your mind to connect to hear like what your higher power has to say. I feel like I've experienced that in those. I used to have one of those memberships to those flow therapy tanks, and I feel like that helped a lot. In conjunction with this stuff that we're doing here,
Yeah, I've never done the sensory deprivation tank, but it seems pretty cool. Now let's just define spirituality real quick. Spirituality definition. The quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. So spirituality is more concerned about the human spirit or soul than material things. I'm not concerned about the body, right? Well, what is the spirit, right? The human spirit. The non-physical part of a person, which is the seat of emotion and character. So for one, or those qualities regarded as forming the definitive or typical elements in the character of a person, nation, or group in the thought and attitudes of a particular period. There's so much to break down in that definition. The emotions and character one is a lot easier to break down because your emotion and your character is actually the non-physical part of you, which does make up the spirit. So for me, what does it mean to explore my spirituality? It means to explore my emotions and explore my character, to transcend my ego associated with my emotions and my character, to, work through. Emotions is defined as natural instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstances, moods, and relationships. So if I am going to work on my spirituality, then I am practicing the managing of my emotions in different circumstances, the managing of my emotions in response to different moods and in different relationships, perhaps with God, transforming my shameful, resentful, fearful relationship or emotions towards my relationship with God into a forgiving, loving, accepting, faithful one. And in that transformation comes managing these emotions. In addition, my character, the mental and moral quality distinctive to an individual. There is no physical, tangible thing that is your character. I cannot hold your mental and moral quality. I can hold things that represent your mental and moral quality. So, I can identify behaviors and I can, hold the clothes that you wear. Those do not define your character. Those define what you think is right and wrong. So what your morals are. I cannot tangibly hold your morals. This non-physical part of you, which is your emotions, I can't grab your emotions. When you are in a state of emotion, you can't just wave it off. It's in you. It's a part of you. So this non-physical part of you called emotion and the other non-physical part of you called your morals is the seat for your spirit. So if I am going to go on a journey of spiritual exploration, I am going to go searching and fearlessly through my emotions, searching and fearlessly through my character defects and shortcomings. And this is about doing that in my relationship with a higher power. Are my emotions towards God the appropriate ones? Should I continue to feel resentful and fearful and bitter towards God? Is it right for me? I was powerless. We were powerless before into having that relationship with God. Now that we've come to this new awareness, it's about no longer forgetting that God is a part of my life. He's with me. We are so quick to forget that and take our will back and act against our purpose. And this is about keeping that in the forefront, remaining conscious of this contact. When we forget that it's unconsciously having contact with our higher power. He's trying to have contact with us and we're unconsciously aware of it. Like he's calling our phone, but it's on silent. This is about taking the phone off silent and answering and being like, yo, what up, God? How's it going? Good to see you. What's the word? And jazzing about it. And in that journey, and it's not tangibly calling or talking to someone. It can be, and we're going to talk about that when we come back from break and start talking about prayer. But that's not what this is. This is about managing emotions and my character and my morals by acting the right way on a new foundation of principles. Maybe 12 steps that I've been working on. Maybe these new morals that are designed around sobriety and recovery, right? Maybe that is the foundation on which I can use to improve the quality of my life. Now, you can definitely recover. There's many different ways to recover, just like there's many different ways to get that relationship with God. But maybe 12-step programs, treatment centers is like the religion of the spiritual journey. You see what I'm saying? The spiritual journey can be found from 12-step or treatment, but it can also be found on your own work through managing those things. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk about how prayer plays a role in that, and what is prayer and how can I use that to optimize this spiritual journey. But first, we got to take a break. So go take a break, take like 15, 20, come back at 2:35, and we'll keep on jazzing about prayer and get into meditation. So great job so far, though. 2:35.